What's going on? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of the day that you're watching this video. Again, I thank you for taking time out of your schedule to watch it. I know you could probably be doing something more important in your life, such as reading the Bible or doing research, reading another book and learning something, but I hope this video is informative to you and you learn something new. So thank you. This video is basically to define some of the lingo and language and slang that Jehovah's Witnesses use. My videos, I try to explain some of these terms and how things work in the Jehovah's Witnesses religion as best as I can, but you got to remember, I've been pretty much a Jehovah's Witness my whole life until a couple of weeks ago when I was expelled as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. So using these terms, they just come second nature to me, and I say them and I probably don't even realize that I'm saying them. So for those of you who have never been Jehovah's Witnesses or are not familiar, I do apologize, and I'll try to explain in my further videos these terms and so forth, but I wanted to use this one to explain some of these terms. So the first one is the term the truth. Now, I polled my family what they thought or what the truth meant to them, and I expected to get maybe one or two, maybe three different answers in about 15 of my family members, and I got 15 different answers. So that tells me this term means something different to everyone, because this isn't really explained. You just kind of learn what it is being around Jehovah's Witnesses. And so basically what I gathered from all these different answers from my family is the truth means that you're an active, baptized Jehovah's Witness and in good standing. And so, like I said, there's probably a lot more different answers, but that's what I gathered from all the answers that I got from my family. There's also the terms organization, society, watchtower, and Watchtower Bible and Tract Society. These basically all mean the Jehovah's Witness religion. The organization, the society, that could mean the world headquarters. The Watchtower Bible and Tract Society is actually a legal entity of the Jehovah's Witnesses religion in the United States. There are many, it's a text message. There are many legal entities, but each Jehovah's Witness in each country basically has its own legal entity, so they'll probably have a different name, but normally these terms refer to the Jehovah's Witness religion. Now you also have the term Kingdom Hall, and that's basically a church, a place of worship, a building. Since Jehovah's Witnesses are bound and determined to be different from everyone else, especially all other Christian denominations, they don't call their building a church, they call it a Kingdom Hall. Then you also have the term congregation. And for a Christian, that's no different. A congregation is a group of followers, members who worship together, and that's the same with Jehovah's Witnesses. Their congregations are usually no more than 150 active, baptized Jehovah's Witnesses. That includes young ones and their families, little ones that aren't baptized just yet. 150 or less active baptized but Jehovah's Witnesses make up a congregation. And in the congregation you have ministerial servants, and I'll discuss what those are in a little bit, and you also have elders, and I'll discuss what those are in a little bit. Each congregation must have at least 3 elders, and they'll also need some ministerial servants as well, but at the very foundation you must have at least 3 elders. Now you also have what's called a group. Usually it's another text message. Usually you have what's called a foreign language group. So here in my hometown of Arlington, Texas, English and Spanish are the two dominant languages, and so you also have other groups that may not meet the requirements to be a congregation, and so they're supported by a parent congregation. I think we have the American Sign Language group, and there's also a Tagalog group and a Vietnamese group and a French group. Not in my hometown of Arlington, but in the area, the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So the groups are not considered a congregation. They don't have meetings as a normal congregation would. They probably only meet together twice a month, something like that. And their meetings are a little bit different than a normal congregation. Now let's go into how the Jehovah's Witnesses are organized, and we'll start at the congregation level. We talked about a publisher, and the publisher has no hour requirements to spend, just that they're to be in the preaching work every month. Every Jehovah's Witnesses is required to send in a report of their ministry, how many hours they spent, how many books they placed, how many magazines they placed, how many Bible studies they're conducting, and so forth. It's basically a stat sheet for each Jehovah's Witness. And so a publisher doesn't have an hour requirement. They just go out as much as they can. Again, for sisters, they have a publisher and a pioneer. That's as far as you're going. For brothers, you can be a publisher or you can be a pioneer. And then if you're a pioneer and you're a male, you can climb up that ladder pretty quickly. So once you're a baptized male, you have a door of opportunities, or privileges, as Jehovah's Witnesses call them, privileges that you can do. You can start carrying the microphones, because there's question and answer parts that require a microphone. You can become an attendant or an usher, basically usher people to their seats. You count the attendants, how many are there, and so forth. The next step for brothers or males is to become a ministerial servant. Now you get a little bit more privileges. You're able to teach a little bit more on the stage, and then ministerial servants assist the elders in different areas. They can be the congregation accountant. They take the donations, they count the money with another eyewitness, deposit it, make sure the bills are paid for the congregation, the lights stay on, the air condition. If there's a mortgage on the Kingdom Hall, they make sure that's paid every month. And they just basically handle the accounts, the money for the congregation. You also have a literature servant, and he makes sure that there's enough literature ordered for all the congregations that meet in a single Kingdom Hall. He makes sure there's enough Bibles, books, magazines, and he takes care of that. He orders it, he picks it up, he distributes it, he counts the inventory each month. That way he knows how much to order. And then you also have a territory servant. Each congregation is assigned a specific territory to preach in, and they are not breaks it up. God dang it! My webcam is messing up on me, so I apologize for that. But each congregation is to break up their territory into smaller chunks, and then they assign these territory cards to publishers that are that sign up for that territory, and their goal is to talk to everyone, every house in that territory. And so it's a very systematic way of preaching. And so those are some of the assignments that ministerial servants have. Now when you're getting ready and they're preparing you to become an elder, you start having more teaching assignments in the congregation. And then the next level is elder, and of course you have a regular publisher elder, and then you have a pioneer elder. And the pioneer, if you're a male and you're a pioneer, you're always considered a little bit better than whatever status group you're in. And so each congregation has at least 3 elders. One is a secretary, one is in charge of the field service overseer, and then you also have one that's in charge of certain parts that are handled on the meeting. He assigns those tasks out to the various ones in the congregation. He's basically the scheduler. And you also have the top dog among the elders, and he's called the Kobe, the coordinator of the body of elders. And so everything runs through him. He's the representative for the congregation. And so that's how things are structured on an organizational level, on a congregation level. Beyond the congregational level, then you have a circuit. A circuit is basically 20 to 25 congregations. They make up a circuit. Now remember, you could have somewhere between, usually about 75 to 110 basically active members of the congregation. So a circuit, it makes up 20 to 25 of those. And you have a circuit overseer. And his task is to upbuild each of the congregations in his circuit. So he'll go and visit one congregation for a whole week, and he'll give special talks. Usually these circuit overseers have a lot of extensive public speaking experience, so they're very good speakers. And they'll visit, they'll give these special talks, they'll go out in the ministry, they'll have lunch with those in the congregation, so that way you get to know them on a more personal level. The circuit overseer and his wife, if he's married. And so they'll go to each congregation, visit them for each week until he's done, and then he'll just repeat it all over again. And usually a congregation has a circuit overseer visit twice a year. So if there's 25 congregations, that's 25 weeks, times that by 2, that's 50 weeks, and so the circuit overseer has 2 weeks off in the year if there's 25 congregations. And so beyond that, the next level up is a district. A district is about 5 to 10 circuits. And so he oversees that, and of course he's called, you probably guessed it, a district overseer. And so these two guys, circuit and district overseers, then they report to the world headquarters. And it could be the world headquarters in the country that they're at. There are many world headquarters that serve different countries. The United States, I think it serves some of, no, that's all it serves. You have one in Mexico, and there's one in Canada, and there's quite a few around the world. But the world headquarters, the main one, is in New York City, in Bethel. Brooklyn, New York, excuse me. And so at world headquarters, you have all types of people that are basically unpaid volunteers. And these unpaid volunteers are called Bethelites. And the headquarters in the country that you're at is called Bethel, meaning house of God. And so these unpaid Bethelites volunteer their time, and they're basically full-time workers. They have beyond a full-time schedule. It is super crazy, their schedule, and they get a small amount, I think it's maybe $125 each month, to take care of personal needs. But they have free housing, they have free meals, they have free laundry, free housekeeping, and in many cases free vehicle maintenance. They also have free stylists and barbers, which I think males can get their haircuts every 3 weeks for free. If they want to go every 2 weeks, then they have to pay on their own money. But So those are Bethelites. And in Bethel, there's a lot of things that are needed. Since everything is free, you have to have cooks, you have chefs, you have waiters to serve all the food, you have maintenance crews, plumbers, electricians, IT guys, phone guys, you have people that work in the laundry department, you have housekeeping, you have people in the vehicle maintenance department. I mean, everything is taken care of. They have a worker for everything there. You have people that print the books. Whatever you can think of, they do it. They have someone there that's a volunteer, that's unpaid. And so these ones are called Bethelites. Also at the world headquarters in Brooklyn, you have what's called the governing body. And this is not a biblical term. This is a business term, because that's what Jehovah's Witnesses really are. They're a commercialized religion. And so at the moment, there are 8 men who govern 8 million Jehovah's Witnesses. Now, there probably is a small, slight difference, but when you say governing body, you also mean faithful and discreet slave. That term that's mentioned in Matthew chapter 24. And so that basically refers to the men that rule the religion. You also have the term anointed, or 144,000. Jehovah's Witnesses believe that that term 144,000 mentioned in Revelation chapter 7 is a literal number, that from the time Jesus anointed his disciples in 33 CE with Holy Spirit until today, there are a total of 144,000 people in the history of mankind during those years that will go to heaven. Everyone else, their hope is to live forever on the earth. So the anointed, the 144,000, that mean people that are going to heaven. So among Jehovah's Witnesses, it's a big deal to know someone that is of the anointed, someone that's going to heaven. Of course, all the governing body members claim to be of the anointed, that they're going to heaven when they die, but that's going to be another entire separate video that I might have to make down the road. So everyone else is considered other sheep or the great crowd. And again, their hope is not to live on the earth, or not to go to heaven. Their hope is to live forever on the earth. And I need to get a drink here. So you have two hopes instead of the conventional one hope of Christians. You have the anointed that are going to heaven, and then you have the other sheep or the great crowd, which are going to live forever on the earth in a paradise and see the fulfillment of Revelation chapter 3 and 4 here on the earth. Now let's talk about the meeting arrangements during the week. So midweek, you meet once during the week, Monday through Friday, and usually it's scattered. Since there's so many congregations that meet in the single kingdom hall, there's going to be a midweek meeting each day of the week normally. My former congregation, we met on Thursday night. And so what happens is you open up the meeting with a song that's been pre-selected, and then prayer, and the meeting begins. And so the first meeting is called the Congregation Bible Study. And this is basically a question and answer format, using one of the publications of Jehovah's Witnesses. Right now it's the publication entitled Draw Close to Jehovah, and you'll study that for 30 minutes. You'll have a conductor, and his job is to basically make sure it flows in an orderly manner. So he'll ask the reader some more text messages. You'll have a reader. He'll read the paragraphs. The conductor will ask the question, and then the audience will raise their hands to answer what basically the reader just read. The next part is what's called the Theocratic Ministry School. And one part of this school is the Bible highlights, and every congregation in the world of Jehovah's Witnesses are on a Bible reading schedule. Usually it's about 3 to 4 chapters, maybe 5, depends how long the chapters are, but the assignment is to read those chapters and then just bring out a 30-second point, a testimonial on what you enjoyed the most, one scripture or thought that you enjoyed from those particular chapters of the Bible. Then on the school you have what's called a number 1 talk, and this is basically a passage from the Bible that's read to the entire congregation, and it's basically a reading of the Bible just to get public speaking experience, and that's to last about 3 or 4 minutes. Then you have a number 2 talk, and this is where the women of the congregation get to have their moment of teaching, and it's a setting, usually a ministry setting, where they go out preaching and they kind of do a reenactment. Then you have a number 3, and it's basically an assigned topic that a male is to do research on, and he gets a little bit of leeway onto what he wants to talk about, but it's an assigned topic. Then afterwards there's a mid-meeting interval with a song, and then it goes into the service meeting, and this is basically has 3 different parts, and it helps the congregation to be able to go out in the ministry. And this is every week. Every week there's parts to help Jehovah's Witnesses go preaching. And then on the weekend, usually on Sundays, it's kind of the same thing. You open your meeting up with a song and a prayer, and then you have a 30-minute sermon that's given by usually an elder in the congregation, sometimes ministerial servants if they're exceptional speakers. I was an elder in training before I was expelled. I probably would have been an elder sometime this year or maybe sometime next year. I've given quite a few public discourses in our congregation. And then you have again an interval, mid-meeting interval with a song, and then you have a study of the Watchtower for about 1 hour. Again, it's just like the congregation Bible study. It's a question and answers from the Watchtower magazine. Conductor asks the reader to read the paragraph. He then asks a question, and then those in the audience are able to give answers. And so that's how the meetings are handled. And then lastly, I want to talk about the Judicial Committee, because you probably have seen some Judicial Committee videos on YouTube. What happens is when you commit a serious sin, say for instance fornication, adultery, drunkenness, smoking, whatever, you're encouraged to go seek the elders so they can help you out. And if another Jehovah's Witness finds out of your serious sin, their responsibility is first to approach you and let you know, hey, you need to go see the elders. And if you don't go see them in X amount of time, let's just say 2 weeks, for example, if you don't go see them in 2 weeks, then I'm going to tell them. And that's what happens. And so if it's a serious enough sin, then a Judicial Committee of 3 elders is to be made up. And this is basically a tribunal meeting where they sit down with you and they grill you, they ask you 100 questions, and they basically do what God can only do. They judge your heart, whether you're repentant or not. If they feel that you're repentant, then you'll probably get reproved, and all of any privileges you may have had are now revoked. You can no longer say comments at the meetings. You can't answer when the question and answer parts. Basically, you're in Jehovah's Witness timeout, and you can only go out in the ministry, and that's basically it. You can't have any other privileges or parts on the congregation meetings. Now, if the elders deem that you're not repentant and you haven't shown any works that befit repentance, then you're disfellowshipped. And once you're disfellowshipped, you are to be shunned by everyone of Jehovah's Witnesses, including your family members who are Jehovah's Witnesses. They are not to speak to you because you are considered spiritually dead. And now, disfellowshipping has various aspects. You can choose to disassociate yourself. You no longer wish to be one of Jehovah's Witnesses. It doesn't matter the reason why you no longer want to be Jehovah's Witness. You're treated as one that's disfellowshipped, a sinner, a fornicator, an idolater, a reviler, a drunkard. It doesn't matter. You're thrown into that lump. And of course, if you're unrepentant, what the elders deem, you're disfellowshipped also. But you could also be labeled as an apostate. And I want to talk about that term really briefly. Now, to Jehovah's Witnesses, an apostate is the Jehovah's Witness boogeyman. You hear apostate and Jehovah's Witnesses, their eyebrows raise up, and they got their Christian guard up immediately, swords out and the helmet on, and their Christian defense is immediately put on. Jehovah's Witnesses are scared and frightened and terrified of apostates. Now, apostate is a slanderous term that's given to those who want to leave the Jehovah's Witness religion for whatever reason. My reason was I started finding out a lot of the hypocrisy that's going on with this religion that claims to be the only religion, among other things. And so doesn't matter if I'm right, I'm wrong. That's what it comes down to for leaving Jehovah's Witness religion. So by leaving and no longer wanting to be one of Jehovah's Witness, I am turning my back on God, and I am spiritually diseased, I'm mentally poisoned, and I am led by Satan the devil, which is farthest from the truth. And so that's why Jehovah's Witnesses will not speak to an apostate. So if they see apostates or people picketing outside conventions or assemblies, they're automatically considered an apostate, even if they were never one of Jehovah's Witnesses. They're automatically considered an apostate. And so the governing body has put a healthy fear on all of its members not to speak to one that's been disfellowshipped for whatever reason. Family member, if it's your mother, your father, your son, your daughter, your aunt, uncle, cousin, doesn't matter. You are not to say a greeting to that person, and they are spiritually dead to you, and just about physically dead either, also, because they don't recognize your presence at all. So that's basically it. Jehovah's Witnesses are a works-based religion. The more you go preaching, the more privileges you get, the higher you can work up that ladder, and the more faithful of a Jehovah's Witness you'll be considered. If you don't go preaching the national average or the congregation average per publisher, which is probably 9 or 10 hours, you won't make it anywhere. You'll be sitting in your seat the whole meeting looking at other brothers with all their responsibilities and be envious of them. And so those are some of the slangs and lingo and ins and outs of Jehovah's Witnesses. So if I say some of these things, please forgive me. I try to explain them as I go, but like I said, I'm still indoctrinated. I'm getting this stuff out slowly. So bear with me and keep these points in mind, and I'll see you on the next video. Thanks. Okay. The clip's over. See you later. Bye.